Right now, 10 private UK islands are sitting completely abandoned, costing just $42,000. Not a leasehold, not a scam. Real, multi-acre kingdoms with zero neighbors and zero landlords. While the average worker faces a 7.5% mortgage interest rate on a moldy suburban fixer-upper, these properties represent a 93% discount compared to the national average housing cost. But 99% of people miss the terrifying catch hidden in the legal paperwork. Island number 3 loses 100% of its landmass when the tide rises past 4.5 meters, and island number 7 carries a $150,000 restoration liability penalty due to ancient 19th century preservation acts. If you buy blindly, you risk a 100% loss of your life savings on a jagged rock swarming with 3,000 aggressive gray seals. Hit subscribe right now because choosing wrong here will cost you 10 years of your life, and the algorithm won't show you this window again once it closes. Let's break it down. Number 1. Barlocco Island, Scotland. In Barlocco, you can buy an entire 24-acre private island for $190,000 and still have enough left over for a fleet of jet skis to escape it. Barlocco Island, Scotland. Population, exactly 0. Deep in the waters of Dumfries and Galloway, it's practically neighbors with nothing but a colony of aggressive seabirds. On the surface, it's a rugged, breathtaking paradise that looks incredible on Instagram. It's wild, green, and completely detached from your boss's Slack messages. Let's break it down. An auction price around $190,000 is less than a tiny studio apartment down payment in New York. Rent is $0. Your dollar goes insanely far. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. There's zero electricity, zero running water, and the local job market is strictly limited to harvesting seaweed. As one Redditor put it, it's all fun and games playing Lord of the Manor until you realize your closest neighbor is a freezing Atlantic gale and you're out of coffee. So, what's the real trade-off? You save thousands on housing, but you spend your emotional currency trying not to freeze to death. Okay, can we talk about the commute for a sec? There are no roads. To get here, you have to walk across a muddy tidal path, dodging quicksand like a budget Indiana Jones. Picture this. It's midnight, raining sideways, and you hear the howling wind while realizing you forgot to buy groceries on the mainland. Could you survive here? Comment yes or no. And if you think Barlocco is wild, the next place somehow made basic plumbing look like advanced alien technology. Number 2. Inch Island, Scotland. This is a kind of island where ancient dark cave dwellings and the ghost of a lonely 20th century hermit exist on the exact same rock. Inch Island, Scotland. Population, 0, unless you count the spirits. Tucked away in the Firth of Lorne, it's practically neighbors with the rugged Isle of Seal. On the surface, it's a majestic, dramatic cliffside fortress made entirely of dark slate. It's breathtaking, historic, and wildly isolating. Let's break it down. The entire 36-acre island is valued around $160,000, which is cheaper than a rusty parking spot in London. Rent is $0. Your dollar buys an entire kingdom. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. There are no sandy beaches here, just sheer, jagged rock faces that make docking a boat feel like an extreme sport. And from June to September, millions of bloodthirsty midges will actively hunt you down. As one local posted, living on Inch is like residing inside a giant, wet charcoal block. It's beautiful until the fog rolls into the caves and you realize you are entirely alone. So, what's the real trade-off? You get ultimate privacy, but you pay for it with intense, bone-chilling psychological isolation. Let's talk about the local bugs for a sec. These Scottish gnats aren't normal. They fly in black clouds and ignore standard bug spray like it's a light body mist. Imagine this. It's a foggy twilight. The air smells of thick salt and damp earth, and the only sound is the eerie echo of waves crashing into dark caves while you try to swat away thousands of biting insects. At least Barlocco Island had a path to the mainland. Inch said, "Hold my whiskey," and cut off the world entirely. If you thought Inch Island's isolation was spooky, the next place forces you to buy a literal military fortress just to get a roof over your head. Number 3. Thorn Island, Wales. You can own an entire monolithic fortress built to fight off Napoleon for a shockingly low price tag. Yes, really. No, It's not a scam. Thorn Island, Wales. Population, 0 living souls. Anchored right outside Milford Haven, it's practically neighbors with the industrial shipping lanes of Pembrokeshire. On the surface, it's an imposing, rugged stone castle rising directly out of the ocean. It's majestic, heavily armored, and wildly intimidating. Let's break it down. While a luxury bunker costs millions, this massive historical fort frequently gets listed cheap just to clear the massive liability. Rent is $0. Your dollar buys hundreds of tons of granite. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The salt water actively eats the 19th century masonry 24 hours a day, and strict preservation laws mean you legally cannot change a single window frame without a government meltdown. As one Redditor put it, it's all fun and games playing king of the castle until the generator blows in November and no boat can reach you through the 15-foot waves. So, what's the real trade-off? You get an impenetrable fortress, but your bank account is totally defenseless against structural maintenance. Okay, can we talk about the Wi-Fi for a sec? Trying to get a cell signal through 10-foot-thick stone walls is completely impossible. Your router is basically a decorative paperweight. Picture this. Midnight. A massive wellstorm is slamming waves against your bedroom wall, and you're burning through candles because your custom marine generator just drowned. Remember Inch Island's biting bugs? Thorn Island laughs at bugs and throws actual hurricanes at your face instead. And if you thought Thorn Island's water constraints were intense, the next place sits right in the middle of London, and humans are legally banned from sleeping there. Hit subscribe so next time you try to buy land online, you accidentally avoid buying a sinking sandbar. Your bank account will thank you later for dodging these multi-million-dollar upkeep traps. Number 4, Brentford 8, England. This island has a multi-million-dollar London view and 0 property tax, but also a strict legal ban on human survival. Same zip code. Make it make sense. Brentford 8, London. Population, 0 humans, roughly 500 angry herons. Floating right in the middle of the River Thames, it's practically neighbors with wealthy West London penthouses. On the surface, it's a lush, willow-covered sanctuary hidden in plain sight. It's green, peaceful, and entirely cut off from the city's hustle. Let's break it down. While a flat across the water costs $2 million, this island can technically be leased for pocket change because it has a 0% development success rate. Rent is non-existent. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The entire island is protected bird sanctuary, meaning pitching a tent is a literal crime, and high tides regularly submerge the grass under muddy river water. As one Redditor put it, it's a cool joke. You're looking at luxury apartments while sitting in the mud surrounded by swans that want to break your arm. So, what's the actual price? You save millions on London real estate, but you spend your days hiding from the Port Authority in a wet bush. And don't even get me started on the parking. There is nowhere to tie up a boat without a commercial license, so you're basically stranded. Imagine this. Sunset over London, the city lights reflecting on the water, the smell of fresh rain, and a massive swan giving you the death stare because you're in his bedroom. At least Thorn Island lets you build walls. Brentford 8 won't even let you drop a sleeping bag. If you thought London's River Island was restrictive, the next spot is practically free, but it's closer to the Arctic Circle than it is to civilization. Number 5, Linga, Scotland. In Linga, you can buy a massive 64-acre island for $80,000 and still have enough left over for a lifetime supply of thermal underwear. Linga Island, Shetland. Population, 0 since 1934. Floating way up in the North Sea, it's practically neighbors with Norway. On the surface, it's a stunning, dramatic Nordic paradise packed with emerald cliffs and wild ocean views. It's majestic, incredibly vast, and completely disconnected from modern society. Let's break it down. An entire island for $80,000 is cheaper than a used pickup truck in the States. Rent is $0. Your dollar goes further than it ever will on the mainland. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. Getting lumber or solar panels to the subarctic requires a terrifying supply chain, and winter brings sub-zero Arctic winds that will literally rip the roof right off your cabin. As one Redditor put it, the midnight sun in June is amazing, but when the winter darkness sets in for 18 hours a day, you start talking to the sheep. So, what's the real trade-off? You save a fortune on a massive plot of land, but you pay for it with intense, mind-numbing seasonal depression. And don't even get me started on the weather. A Shetland storm doesn't just rain. It hurls freezing ocean water horizontally into your eyeballs. Drop a comment right now with your honest answer. If you were given $50,000 to go drop an off-grid cabin on Linga Island, could you survive a winter with zero internet and 18 hours of darkness every single day? Or would you crack within the first week? Let me know below. I read every single comment. At least Brentford 8 was close to a London pub. Linga is basically the edge of the earth. And if you think Linga's winter isolation is tough, wait until you see the island that is slowly morphing into a giant trap of literal quicksand. Number 6. Sturt Island, England. This island has millions of square feet of coastal land and a price tag of absolute zero, but also a bad habit of swallowing humans whole. Same coordinates. Make it make sense. Sturt Island, Somerset. Population, 0, unless you count the mud. Guarding the mouth of the River Parrett. It's practically neighbors with the foggy Somerset coastline. On the surface, it's a vast, mysterious sand and shingle sanctuary that looks like a wild, untamed film set. It's bleak, majestic, and entirely flat. Let's break it down. Because it's deemed a massive geographical liability, the land value is nearly worthless. Rent is $0. Your dollar stays safely in your pocket because there's nothing to buy. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The extreme tidal range of the Bristol Channel causes the entire island to violently shift shape every year, and the surrounding mudflats are notoriously unstable quicksand. As one Redditor put it, tried to explore it on a weekend kayak trip. Got stuck in the mud for 2 hours waiting for the tide to lift me out. Seriously, don't go there. So, what's the actual price? You save a fortune on a massive plot of land, but you spend your days praying the ground doesn't liquefy beneath your boots. Okay, can we talk about the roads for a sec? There are none. Just shifting, muddy paths that can trap a vehicle or a human in seconds. Imagine this. A cold, gray afternoon, blinding sea spray hitting your face, and the sudden, terrifying realization that your left boot is sinking into the earth and won't come back up. Hey, at least in Linga, the frozen ground stayed solid under your feet. Looking at you, Sturt Island. And if you think a shifting sandbar is a logistical nightmare, wait until you see the luxury private island that billionaires keep abandoning because the bills are too high. Number 7. Uninhabited, Scotland. In uninhabited, you can buy a private island with its own modern helicopter pad for a massively discounted price and still have enough left over to feel like a high-stakes Bond villain. Uninhabited, Scotland. Population, 0 regular residents. Tucked away in a sheltered loch in Argyll, it's practically neighbors with the historic ruins of the Scottish Highlands. On the surface, it's a jaw-dropping billionaire's playground featuring 2 ultra-luxury renovated houses. It's sleek, stunning, and looks like a millionaire's retreat. Let's break it down. While the initial multi-million-dollar price tag sounds steep, it regularly sees massive price cuts because the mega-rich keep realizing they can't handle the upkeep. Rent is $0. Your dollar buys actual luxury. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The island is completely off-grid, meaning if your custom solar arrays or giant backup generators fail during a storm, you are entirely in the dark. As one Redditor put it, it's beautiful if you have a staff of 5 people to run it. If you're doing the maintenance yourself, it's just a full-time job where you pay the bills. So, what's the emotional cost? You get a stunning modern estate, but you spend your weekends bleeding cash to import specialized marine mechanics. And don't even get me started on the stores. If you run out of milk, your quick grocery run involves launching a boat across a choppy sea loch. Imagine this. A breathtaking coastal sunset, a sleek designer living room, and the sudden realization that your $1,000,000 heating system just threw an error code you can't fix. At least Sturt Island was free. Uninhabited forces you to pay millions just to become a glorified full-time caretaker. And if you think off-grid luxury maintenance is stressful, wait until you see the island where nature has completely reclaimed everything with absolute violence. Number 8. Foulney Island, England. Foulney is a kind of island where ruined stone causeways and an army of dive-bombing birds exist on the exact same desolate stretch of rock. Foulney Island, Cumbria. Population, zero humans. Jutting straight out into Morecambe Bay, it's practically neighbors with the industrial docks of Barrow and Furness. On the surface, it's a bleak, apocalyptic shingle island that feels like the setting of a dystopian film. It's wind-battered, raw, and completely dominated by nature. Let's break it down. Because it's deemed a massive structural liability, the real estate value here is essentially non-existent. Rent is $0. Your dollar buys you absolute, uninterrupted isolation. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The long stone path connecting you to the mainland completely floods at high tide, and during nesting season, thousands of protected Arctic terns will violently attack your head if you step near their territory. As one local posted, "Walked out there to see the nature. The tide turned way faster than I expected, and I had to wade through waist-deep, freezing seawater back to my car while birds actively tried to scalp me." So, what's the actual price? You save a fortune on a coastal escape, but you pay for it with absolute physical vulnerability against the elements. And don't even get me started on the weather. The damp cold coming off the Irish Sea doesn't just chill you. It gets inside your bones and stays there until May. Imagine this. A gray, overcast evening, a freezing mist rolling over the shingle rocks, and the sudden realization that the tide has swallowed your path home while hundreds of birds begin circling overhead. Hey, at least on Island Rye, you had a roof and a helicopter pad. Foulney Island just leaves you at the mercy of the sea. And if you think a flooded bird sanctuary is intense, wait until you see the haunted marsh island that literally inspired England's most famous Gothic ghost story. Number 9. Ray Island, England. This haunted marsh island inspired world-famous Gothic ghost stories, and visiting it requires crossing a tidal road that actively swallows cars whole. Ray Island, Essex. Population, 0, unless you count the legends. Floating within the Blackwater estuary, it's practically neighbors with the ancient oyster village of Mersey Island. On the surface, it's a bleak, atmospheric wilderness of salt marshes and twisted oak trees. It's hauntingly beautiful, deeply historical, and intensely quiet. Let's break it down. Because it's completely protected by the National Trust, commercial development is entirely illegal, rendering its real estate market value technically non-existent. Rent is $0. Your wallet stays locked tight. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The surrounding salt marshes produce a heavy smell of decomposing organic matter during low tide, and the stagnant, brackish pools breed swarms of hyper-aggressive mosquitoes all summer long. As one Redditor put it, visually stunning if you like bleak, dramatic landscapes. But the second the sun goes down, the marsh fog rolls in and the entire place becomes deeply, deeply unsettling. So, what's the emotional cost? You get an incredible, undisturbed sanctuary, but you pay for it with intense, hair-raising psychological dread the moment night falls. And don't even get me started on the mud. This isn't normal dirt. It's a thick, black sludge that will pull the boots right off your feet if you misstep. Imagine this. A cold, misty twilight, the thick smell of tidal brine in the air, and the absolute silence broken only by the sound of your own footsteps sinking into the dark marshland. At least Foulney Island's birds attacked you in the daylight. Ray Island waits until dark to mess with your mind. Finally, we reach our number 1 spot, an island so remote and cheap, it was sold for less than a family vacation, but it contains a dark secret hidden right underneath the grass. Number 10. Grunay, Scotland. You can buy this entire island at the literal edge of the earth for less than the price of a mid-tier family vacation. Yes? Really? No, it's not a scam. Grunay Island, Outskerries. Population, 0 since the lighthouse went automatic. Sitting as the absolute easternmost point of Shetland, it's practically neighbors with Norway. On the surface, it's a jaw-dropping, wind-swept paradise of dramatic cliffs and endless ocean blue. It's wild, grand, and completely untamed. Let's break it down. Historically sold for under $108,000, it is cheaper than a tiny parking garage in Edinburgh. Rent is $0. Your dollar buys extreme geographical prestige. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. To get a single loaf of bread here requires multiple ferry rides and an open ocean crossing, and the island soil is entirely made of deep, highly acidic peat that swallows foundations. As one Redditor put it, It feels like the literal edge of the earth. If you want to disappear from society completely, this is it. But make sure you bring a lifetime supply of canned soup. So, what's the actual price? You save an absolute fortune on land, but you spend your days entirely at the mercy of Atlantic supply chains. And don't even get me started on the Wi-Fi. If a storm hits, your satellite dishes are basically expensive outdoor decorations. Imagine this. Sunset on the highest cliff, looking out over an endless ocean, smelling the crispest air on Earth, while walking past hidden World War II bomber debris buried right in the grass. At least Ray Island had a mainland road nearby. Brunei leaves you entirely alone with the ocean. So, could you actually survive on your own private British island?